Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture Calls, a monthly podcast by Culturelytics, where we talk all about culture in organizations, why it matters, and how leaders can get to grips with it. Today, we're extremely pleased to welcome Vineet Handa. Vineet is founder and CEO of Kaizzen, a leading PR and communications company based in India. For 2 years in a row, Kaizzen has ranked the fastest growing PR agency in India and the fourth fastest growing agency globally. Founded in 2008 with just 2 employees in a single office, by 2020, just before the pandemic hit, the firm had about 38 employees. But in the last 2.5 years, they've grown to 140 employees across 5 offices in India and 1 in the Gulf. And this growth obviously has come despite the pandemic. So this is a boutique firm that has grown into a mid-sized firm with a leading reputation in the PR industry. We want to talk to Vineet today about the role of culture in this exceptional growth and their success to date, whether culture is important to their vision for the future of the business, and what are the challenges in managing culture. So welcome, Vineet. We're so pleased to have you here to talk about a subject I know is important to you.
Hi, Clyde. Truly a privilege to be here, talking to you about Kaizen, about my journey, and all, of course, above all is culture. Very interesting. You said we've grown from a boutique firm to a mid-sized firm. Honestly, our approach is still boutique. At heart, we are still boutique, and I think that's something which has led us where we are today. Uh, and if you ask me, the single-minded approach is to continue at that path. However big we grow, we're planning to go global. In fact, we are global now while I'm talking to you. But the approach remains that how do we make sure that there are certain characteristics of a boutique firm, and that boutique firm as a service industry is very, very important, and that's very close to our heart. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. Let me just back up quickly and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey here. How a little bit about how you came to PR and how you came to start Kaizen, and how you have managed to actually achieve this extraordinary growth and turn what was originally a boutique firm into a mid-sized firm and a new entrant, turning yourselves into a competitor to be reckoned with in the market. So we'd love to hear just a little bit about your journey.
Very interesting. Firstly, was I trained as a PR person? No. Was I destined to be here? Probably yes. I've written a blog, which is my blog is called PR by Chance, and this is just by chance that I'm in this industry. But and when it happened, it just happened, and since then there's no looking back. So honestly, I come from a very middle class, humble background from a central state of India called Madhya Pradesh, a small town. And honestly, if you ask me, my graduation till my graduation, I've studied in Hindi medium. So it's something which is, I mean, I was probably a miles away from communication. And then when things happen. And I think you spoke about Kaizen's growth. And that's what is happening with us. Like, I was not sure about the PR industry, or I never thought about the PR industry. Similarly, the growth. I have never thought about Kaizen's growth. I've never thought that I will grow this way. We have our own goals, and those goals are probably, I would say, a quarterly or an annual growth goals, and we are working towards achieving those goals. Whether those goals are business goals, whether those goals are client led or relationship led goals, or the people led goals. So we are not working towards creating a 5-year plan and working towards that. What we are focusing is next 6 months, and then the next 6 months. And I think that has worked pretty well with us. And that is one of the core reasons why we could grow what we could do till date. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you're building the business based on the way you want to run the business, the way what you want to do, and it's just the way you've approached it has just been extremely successful.
Yeah, there are school of thoughts. There are people who say you need to have a long-term planning. You need to have, plans which are based on, your previous experience and stuff. Now, in last 3 years, we never thought when pandemic happened that the world was coming to end, right? Businesses were closing. Who could think that we would grow probably 100% in a year of pandemic? So things like those. So I think when you're working towards a goal, uh, and then it's something like you have those external powers helping you to grow, which I very strongly believe in, and that's what has happened with us. So even today, what we're really looking at is we're starting our first global office in Middle East. Uh, our focus is to make sure that next 6 months we establish that office. Uh, the second primary goal is to retain 100% clients in this year. These are the two goals what we have. The rest everything falls in place automatically.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a great philosophy. Let me talk a little bit about culture. Um, you know, more and more people seem to be talking about culture, especially I think since the pandemic. And we all, of course, know Peter Drucker's dictum, the culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm wondering if this rings true for you. What role do you say has culture played a role in your growth and your success to date? And if so, sort of why and how?
So, uh, probably I take these questions in a reverse order. Has culture played a role in my success and the Kaizen success? I think the culture has is the only thing which has played role in Kaizen success. There's nothing else. Uh, in a scenario in a market where we are sitting amongst vultures, and these vultures are of various sizes, right? And I'm sorry, my competition uh, is huge in industry. And if I'm able to survive and grow, and not only grow almost 300% in last 2.5 years, just because we are doing something right, just
Yeah.
because there is a culture which people understand is important to them or would work well with them. So I think its culture is not about people. Culture is also about clients. And again, if you really look at clients are not the companies or the big kinds. Clients are also people. So if it's
Yeah.
a culture, it's culture which actually particularly work with all our stakeholders. And I think that's has worked for us. Now, I have a very interesting take on culture. People work on culture because they feel it's important. It will help in retention. It will help in people satisfaction. It will, image, a lot of other things around culture. If you ask me, I work on a culture because I want it that way. I'm selfish here. I am not looking at culture because it would give me these outputs. No, I cannot do things without all of it. So for us, culture is a way of life. You know, it's not breakfast. It's probably lunch, dinner, evening snack, and much more. So for us, it's a lot of that. And I think that's how I would define culture for guys.
Very
I would define culture for guys.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. And can you say a little bit about the culture that is your reason for doing business, the reason that you want to build and keep in Kaizen? Say a little bit about what that culture is.
So I think Kaizen culture is being human. That's the basic thing what we're working on. Now, being human means uh, you need to be accountable. You need to be kind. You need to listen more. You need to understand more. You need to give space. You need to support. And I think these are few of the core elements which which drives us. And I think, when we talk about culture, the purpose comes first. And I think if I really combine all of this, that becomes our purpose. Our purpose as Kaizen is is I think to be kind, as people, to support, be there for everything. And then I think that's something which is core to us. And honestly, if you really ask me, that's what the leadership is all about.
That's very interesting.
So
Yeah.
so if you really look at it, if Kaizen has to reach a leadership position, these are the few elements which would take us there.
Right.
Which would take us there. Yeah.
Right. So for you, the core thing is the culture. It's your way of approaching business. It's the philosophy. It's the humanity and being kind and that's the way you're going to run the business. And so far it seems has been incredibly successful. Perhaps a little bit against your
And I'll tell
expectations.
you, these all these terms sound larger than life. They sound very fancy. But I'll tell you how it works. So I talked about accountability. I talked about supporting each other. I think that's where the culture is. If a particular person or a particular team is struggling with some kind of deliveries, there are people who pitch in. If there are people who are unwell, there are other teams pitch in and say, hey, we'll take care of it. Don't worry. So, these are few things which work. Ultimately, you know, the client's deliverables, client's need remains the most important part of our survival. And we make sure internally that culture which we're trying to develop helps us to achieve that.
Right. Right.
So, and then people connect with that, especially post pandemic, people understand that much better.
Right. Right. And do you think a culture like that has helped you attract, you've grown your employee base quite a bit. Does that culture help you attract the talent you need to support your clients?
So I personally feel it's about it's about the right employee and not the new employee. So
Mm.
who attracts are the right employee, and we'd be happy to sort of have them on board.
Right. Right.
So we are
Right.
also very choosy about the right fits. Attitude is most important. Skills can follow. We can work on skills, but if the person does not have the right attitude, it won't fit in Kaizen. He will
Right.
not be able to take space here. You know, it, sorry. So I think ultimately, uh, this is what we are, and we try and build our network on the basis of that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I um I mean, you have very deep experience in the PR industry. I'm curious what you think about the role of culture in the PR sector in general. Are there particular cultural challenges that face the leaders of PR firms? Um, and it's obviously it's also a fiercely competitive talent market. So does this culture play a role in competitiveness in general among PR firms?
Ah, so I'll tell you, uh, probably one of the fastest growing industry. And when the growth happens, uh, businesses are growing, people are required, and that's where the compromise starts. Uh, compromise happens from both sides, from people's side as well as the company side. They all look for the need of today. We need 10 people on particular project. Doesn't matter. Bring them on board. And this whole process somewhere, is a compromising process in looking at the right resources. And people are people. Nobody is good or bad or wrong or right. These are the opportunities. And the other part of in our industry is an average age of an employee like in Kaizen would be say around 26 years or 27 years. So they are young. They want to grow fast. They definitely need a lot of money to sort of enjoy their life and things like those. And they do take benefit of all of this. So now coming back, what I've said is I'm just connecting back to the industry. These are the few areas where industry is struggling big time. And therefore, I personally see the agencies who are sticking around with it, certain parameters, certain goals, and not looking at compromising with the whole process of hiring or building culture. I think that's something which is an issue here. The other issue is, post pandemic, still many companies are still either on a hybrid mode or a work from home mode. And I s- and I personally feel that a people to people contact is is the most important milestone for a culture. Until unless you have a people to people contact, the culture will not take shape. Culture is not about one on one video calls. Culture is not about you know phone calls. I think that's something which is a very important link, and industry is still trying to cope up with that. So I think that's another area where our industry is still, like other industries or bigger software players and stuff. It's sort of they're all struggling around there. Yeah.
So remote or even hybrid model is a challenge for you. And
I so we were one of the first ones to go 100% work from office. And all our offices across 100% work from office. There are a lot of policies which are helping, especially our female friends in Kaizen, with a lot of care leaves and stuff like that, or care work from home policies. But otherwise, we are one of the first organizations in India to go 100% work from office.
right, right, and doing that is to a great extent for you about culture, about maintaining the culture that you want.
You know, I think so, yeah. So culture is definitely one part. The other part, which we realized that there were no team bondings. There was no connection with the team leaders were trying to struggle. Now, you know, I mean, I can tell you and I can vouch for you. You talk to any team lead, they would know each of their team members' family. They would know what's happening in their lives. They would know which city they come from, what is their siblings, including me. I sort of give my personal time to people and check on. So I think those are very important parts of creating that culture, that personal touch. And I think that's helped us a lot in this.
Right, and the mutual support you were talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Um, Getting towards the end of the interview, I wanted to ask you about sort of the managing culture, how you manage culture. So I quote someone else at you, Jack Welch of GE once said that the soft stuff is the hard stuff. So it's not always how is it that leaders actually get to grip with something like culture? And I think especially in a rapidly growing and therefore changing organization like Kaizen, I'd ask you a little bit about what the challenges are of managing culture in the organization and how do you do it? How do you get your hands around it?
So I would say uh, definitely the soft things are the hard ones. No doubt about it. And what I really spoke about, our culture is all about soft things. Uh, you know, now what is happening is, uh, pre-COVID, a lot of these fancy things like free meal, a five-star gymnasium, all of these things used to become a part of culture. So all the benefits were considered as culture. Not anymore. People understand what is culture, right? So I think that's something which has made our job easier. Now coming back, because we understand we're still a small company, we do not have those deep pockets to provide things which bigger agencies or bigger companies can provide. Now, very interesting part of this, how we could manage to do what we could do. Uh, Part one, whatever it may happen, stick to it.
Mm.
Do not change your policies. You do not change your ethos just because a couple of people have taken benefit of it.
Mm.
When you talk about culture like kindness, culture like being supportive, the people are people. People would take or misuse that,
Sure.
and that's what the biggest test is, right?
Okay.
So for an example, I'll tell you, and I'm very particular about this. During COVID, almost all companies, and I would say, everybody in the world who had little mind or a head on the shoulder has supported their employees in whatever capacities and possibilities, right?
Hmm.
But you see, just after COVID is the biggest resignation story ever.
Yeah.
Now, as an entrepreneur or a CEO, he could have thought about that, we as a company did so much for XYZ employee, and just see first opportunity, he didn't even think twice to put in his papers.
Good question.
So now I correlate my example with what I have said. So what we are doing in culture is not for people. I'm doing it for myself. I'm selfish here. I want it this way, right?
Mm.
That's the way I'll be happy. If
Mm.
I want to bring a culture of kindness, I'll be happy. It gives me happiness. And I think that's bottom line. Whoever doesn't matter. So the point number one is, one has to stick around. Once you've decided, let nothing move you from what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's step one, number one for me. And the step number two is go back to the step number one. If something goes wrong, just go back and say, hey, no, this is the way we are, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's partly about clarity about what you're in business for, and partly about
Yeah.
integrity, I would say. Yeah. Yeah.
True, true, true. And then, I mean, we know people say culture costs. I feel culture is very cheap. Culture, culture needs determination. Culture needs your commitment. Culture needs the leadership commitment. That's all. If your leadership is not committed to the culture you want to bring in, no efforts. It will not. It's only way for culture is a top bottom approach.
So the,
You
the the leadership
cannot
has to set
expect
the tone.
any other. Yeah. And that's what we are trying to build. That's what we are trying to build.
Yeah, yeah. And in that way, you'll as big as you grow, you'll try to maintain that culture of being a boutique organization where people are helping each other to serve your clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, and the fun and the happiness of that is very different. It's and I have heard those stories. I have heard clients talking to me about it. And for us, just imagine we've just entered in our 15th year of existence, and uh, my first three clients are still my clients.
Wow, really, that's something to be proud of.
And I think that's what we have earned.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, it's a wonderful story that you have to tell, Vineet. It's nice to talk to you for a bit about it this morning, this afternoon for you. Are there any particular thoughts you'd like to leave the audience? I think you've probably said quite a bit about about your approach to culture. So,
So again, I can speak a lot on culture because that's the only thing which I'm doing. I'm not a communicator. I think I'm a person, what I am. It works, and it works in all environments. You know, I mean, if I'm kind, if my heart is kind, I'll listen to my people, right? If you listen to them, you will have solutions for them. Even if I don't have a solution, listening itself is huge, right? So I think it works. It works for business as well. I mean, when client needs you and you stand up there, that's what client needs, right? Deliveries, results are always byproduct. The biggest is effort, you know. So I think those are the essence of our culture. You put in your best efforts, and it's all, if you really look at all of this connected with, one is being kind, second is being accountable.
that's that's wonderful. You're making me want to work there. So,
That's it. And it's simple. It's very simple, right?
yeah.
At
Yes,
least
well,
it sounds simple.
simple, but not something you leave to chance. Simple, but something you need to lead consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. I've taken up probably enough of your time now. So thank you so much, Vineet Handa, for joining us on the call today. It was absolutely fascinating to listen to your approach to culture and to the firm. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you have any questions, please get in touch, and please make sure to look at the post of the podcast and give us a like. Thanks very much, and look forward to talking to you more, Vineet.